Welcome to Explore English Churches, and today we've come to Naseby on the edge of Northamptonshire in England. And it was here in 1645 that one of the most important battles of the English Civil War took place between King Charles and Oliver Cromwell. And the battle went back and forth, swung back and forth between the royalists and the parliamentarians. Eventually, the parliamentarians won. We're going to take a little drive through and see what it is that we discover, and hopefully the church will be open. I can see the church steeple from here, but before we go, I want to have a little drive through Naseby itself and give you the opportunity to have a look around. Okay, so bear with me. I don't know what we're going to come across as we go down this road. You may be able, you can just see the church steeple on the left hand side above these red brick houses, and we're going to take a drive down here and have a look around. So bear with me. Hope you find it interesting. As I say, it was one of the most important battles of the English Civil War took place in 1645, and we're just going to have a little drive round this little place so I can show you as much as I possibly can. I'm hoping that the church is open, and I'm sure that we will find within the church some very interesting monuments and various other items. So bear with me. I'm not 100% certain where I'm going, but we are going to have a little look around, and maybe you may find some of these old cottages and that of interest. Okay, so just bear with me for a moment. The Battle of Naseby is well known throughout English history. As I say, it was one of the most important battles that took place. So let's have a little drive down. So here we are at All Saints Church in Naseby in Northamptonshire, and as I say, we've come round to have a look at this church where this famous battle took place. Now we're going to have a little wander around the outside first, and I want to show you, as always, as much as I possibly can. I always have to be careful where I'm walking, as you know, because I have a tendency to fall over or trip myself up. And there you go, that's this magnificent spire to the church. And what I'm noticing straight away is the doorway and the staircase to the tower up there on the outside. And just as a matter of interest, there you go, that's the key. It's enormous. Look at the size of that. So I'll give you a quick view of the actual churchyard itself, which is quite extensive, and it goes way beyond over there. I don't know, there's a chappie over there in blue attending a grave by the looks of it, and it's more or less plonk in the centre of the village itself. So look at these have been well worn down, haven't they? Hey, it's rather nice, I like it. Yes, let's have a little look inside. I have no idea what it's like in here, but look at the size of this key, people. Look at that. Very handy that we was able to pick the key up quite easily. And we've got to find a way in. I don't know how this door works, so lovies, you're going to have to bear with me. Unless I've locked it and locked someone in. Heavens, I know. How do we get the door in? There we go. There you go. Bit of a struggle, but we get there. Look at that. That's beautiful. Wow. So, after a bit of a struggle to get in the door, and as always, people, the door is quite heavy. I don't suspect it's the original door, but I do like that massive lock on there. I do like that. That's rather nice. So, without further ado, let's have a little wander round. It smells a bit damp in here, I will say that. Okay, again, I've got to be careful not to fall over. So, we're going to explore this wonderful church. Obviously, a lot of the history of the church relates back to the battle in 1645. So, but first, because I've never been here before, let's just, you're exploring this with me for the very first time. And I think that's great. The first thing I notice walking through here is that there are no stained glass windows. Oh, tell a lie, I've just spotted one. Whoops. Stevie's falling over already. And yes, it's a kind of an unusual church, isn't it, in a way? As you know, I always like to see these Mothers Union banners in the churches. And we do have a stained glass window here. It is, well, there are one or two others, I believe. So let's have a little look. Strange that most of this is actually carpeted. And to me, it has a strange layout, this church. It truly does. It has a very high ceiling here, and obviously, like most of these churches, it's been renovated over the years, and during these sort of Victorian periods, they sort of got carried away with painting everything. But whether this is original or not, I do not know. I suspect probably not, and I suspect that that was probably done during the Victorian times. You'll also notice that you've got pews right up here on the chancel as such, or that could be where the choir would sit. There is a massive organ in here. I think you can see that quite well. I'm trying to pick out all the features in this church, and it's rather difficult to do at the moment. Here we have a list of the rectors, as I say, and the earliest one dates to 1228. very dark in here. We're right underneath the tower, and I think it's great that they actually have the church is its key is available. I think that's marvellous, and I wish many other churches would actually do that. This window was placed church warden by the persons mentioned below. The Bishop Reverend E. Cobb. And that was 1860. That's when that was put in place. Here again we have the ropes for the bells. We've got 1, 2, 3 there, so it's only a peal I make it of 3 bells. There's some other real peculiarities in here that I've noticed in this church. Now, if I am correct, I believe that this is actually, could well be, a Saxon burial stone. That is what I suspect. I've seen these before. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I think that is possibly what that is. And there's really some weird peculiarities in this church. It's really quaint, and it's great to come along and find a church that hasn't been where all the pews have been ripped out, and and all this modern stuff put in. This is original in as much as it's original from the point of view that when it was possibly restored. Over here they have a display in the church about the Battle of Naseby, Naseby battlefield, the Civil War connection. So, and I've got to show you in a little moment this most peculiar thing that I've seen on the left hand side, but first let me explain some of this to you. These are some of the coins and things that they've dug up from the battlefield. Okay, and this is King Charles I coinage, 1 penny, a shilling, a pound, etc. And then here are also some of the musket balls, carbine balls, and then we have some pistol balls and various other buckles, powder box, etc. that they've actually found within the battlefield itself. Now, there is this gorgeous table here. It does have, look at this table, it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm wondering if this is what they refer to as the Cromwell table. Yes, it is indeed. Yes. Now, it is said that the King's men, or some of the King's men, were actually having a meal at this table when they were pounced upon by Cromwell's men, who basically killed them off, sat down and finished their meal. And it is called the Cromwell table, can you believe? Look at this, how it's all been worn and that. And there must have been something in there years ago. There's something else there. It's the way the table was made. These are the joints. Quite incredible. So this table really is an extraordinary relic when you think that that dates all the way back, to 1645. Absolutely fabulous relic. Yeah, can you imagine sitting at this table, and then all of a sudden, well, having your head chopped off, probably. That's fabulous. But there are some really other peculiar things. I must show you this strange copper ball here. This is the strangest thing I've ever seen in a church. And apparently, it is a fabulous looking thing. Apparently, this copper ball here, it was brought from Boulogne in 1544 and placed like what they call a stump. We're going to take a walk up to a monument that actually marks the spot of one of the fields where the Battle of Naseby actually took place, and I will pan around and let you see. As you can imagine, that the battle itself between the King's men and Cromwell's men would have raged all across this landscape. And as I said at the introduction, the battle swayed back and forth, with one moment the King's side were in advance and winning, and then Cromwell's men, who eventually did win the battle, them going forward. So let's have a little look. We have a flag up here, flag of St. George, and blowing in the wind. And let's have a look at this monument. It's got some sort of weird brick mechanism. Here we go. There you go. And here we are. The Battle of Naseby, 14th of June 1645. From here, this site, Oliver Cromwell, something or other, done a cavalry charge. I can't read the rest, it's worn away. Can't see any other inscriptions on there. Oh, here we have here. I can't read what that is, it's too worn away. But that is a monument to mark the site of the Battle of Naseby on the 14th of June 1445. And here, as you can see, and as I pan up, you will see this field, and that's where all the armies faced one another across these fields. Here shows you where the royalists were, are right in that tree line at the back. You can maybe, I'll see if I can pan in. You may be able to make out a farm building over there, and right on that edge, that's where all the royalist men were, across that, on that hedge. And also amongst this spinney over here, what they call a spinney, a small wood. And I'll just pan back, give you an idea of the distance that we are. So there we have it. The royalists had approximately 4,600 men, and Cromwell had, well, 7,500 foot soldiers and 5,400 horses. The royalists had 5,500 horses. And just to show you where we are. As I say, it was one of the most important battles in English history. So, quite interesting, and yeah, being on this site, very, very interesting indeed. I wonder what would have happened if the royalists would have won. If you think that thousands of men during that time, they lost their lives in these fields. It's, you know, we're not talking a few hundred, we're not talking 20, 30, we're not talking a few hundred, we're talking thousands of men actually died on both sides in these fields. Their bones probably still lie there below the soil today. I'd love to be able to explore over there in that spinney. That would be truly interesting. I'm sure there's still stuff to be found, and there's probably still many items that are still to be found in these fields, although they have been investigated many, many times over the hundreds of years that have passed. Now the farmer's down there, I'll show you. He's actually bringing in the hay. I think you may be able to see that. The sun is a bit strong. There we go. So he's working the fields where history, English history, was actually made. Ha! So sweet.